see it.
Hello and welcome to LBC Irregulars, a Sherlock Holmes podcast radio episode brought to you by the LONGBOX CRUSADE. This is episode 13 of the radio show series. On this episode, we will listen to The New Adventures of Sherlock Holmes, Colonel Warburton's Madness. This was season 6, episode 2. It aired on September 10th, 1945, featured Basil Rathbone and Nigel Bruce. I want to give a thanks to the Arthur Conan Doyle Encyclopedia website. They keep me straight on all these numberings of seasons and whatnot. Now, after we listen to the show, my guests and I will discuss our thoughts on it. We invite you to be part of that conversation. You can leave us a voicemail with your thoughts at 707-532-5269. That's 707-532-LBOX. Or you can comment on the show at LONGBOX CRUSADE, Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube. Or you go old school and contact us with email, contact@longboxcrusade.com. Your comments might just get played on a future episode. Now it's time for the show. Let us dim the lights and travel back in our minds to a London of the past, through the chilled and foggy streets of London to 221B Baker Street.
Petri Wine brings you Basil Rathbone and Nigel Bruce in The New Adventures of Sherlock Holmes. The Petri family, the family that took time to bring you good wine, invites you to listen to Dr. Watson as he tells us about another exciting adventure he shared with his old friend, that master detective, Sherlock Holmes. And you know what I wish I could share with you sometime? A bottle of Petri California Sherry. Have you ever tasted Petri Sherry? It's just perfect before dinner. Why, that Petri Sherry can change the usual before-dinner lull into a special event, and that's a fact. Just look at the clear color of Petri Sherry. It's a deep, rich amber, clear and cheerful-looking. And wait till you taste it. That's when you find out for sure just how good a wine can be. That's when you find out just what I mean when I say that the flavor of Petri Sherry comes right from the heart of the grape. Try Petri Sherry by itself, or with hors d'oeuvres or canopies or whatever you call those little cocktail sandwiches. And say, if you like your sherry dry, well then Petri California Pale Dry Sherry is the sherry for you. Just be sure the label says Petri, the proudest name in the history of American wines. And now let's look in on our old friend, Dr. Watson. Doctor?
I'm out here on the patio, Mr. Bartell. Come out and join me. Quiet, Winnie. Quiet. Down, Monty.
I see the welcoming committee's here.
Yes, little scoundrels. They begin to think they own this patio. Scoop them off the chair, Mr. Bartell, and settle yourself down.
All right, off you go, boys.
Off you go. Go on, off you go. That's it, my boy. As a matter of fact, it's rather appropriate that the puppies should be here tonight. As in the story that I'm going to tell you, a dog played a most prominent part.
A dog? What kind of a dog, Doctor?
Now, my boy, don't get me anticipating my story. For once, I'm going to start at the beginning.
Which was?
On a summer morning in 1890, not long after my marriage. I'd gone back to my private practice, you know, and Sherlock Holmes was living alone in our old Baker Street rooms.
You still saw him, I suppose.
Indeed I did, Mr. Bartell. In fact, occasionally I even persuaded him to forego his bohemian habits so far as to visit my wife and me. But to get back to my story, I've been exceptionally busy that summer. In consequence, was feeling rather, shall we say, nervy and run down. So much so that Mary, Mrs. Watson, persuaded me to take a fortnight's holiday. We went down to the charming little village of Taplow on the lower reaches of the River Thames. But, as so often happens, the best laid schemes of mice and men gang after glade.
I guess the holiday backfired on you, Doctor, and you found yourself involved in a mystery? Maybe a mystery calling for the aid of your old friend Sherlock Holmes?
Quite correct, Mr. Bartell. We'd only been down there a couple of days when the trouble began. In fact, the whole thing became so involved that I thought the best thing to do was to put the whole strange story in a letter to Sherlock Holmes. This I did. And I can imagine how he chuckled when he read my news.
Dear old Watson. Seems to be a little out of his depth. My dear Holmes, I need your help. Or at least your advice. 2 days down here and I've become involved in a most unusual problem. It began this morning when Mary and I were out for an after-breakfast stroll. The sun was shining, the birds were singing, and there seemed every indication of it being a happy and carefree.
You know, Mary, I've always thought up to now that balmy was rather a silly word.
I still do, John, dear.
Nevertheless, it's the only possible word that describes a day like this eloquently.
Very well, dear, it's balmy. Personally, I'm so happy to see you relaxing that I don't care what the weather's like. You've been working much too hard.
Yes, it's been a busy year.
Yes, and last year Sherlock Holmes monopolized most of your time. At least I've got you to myself for once.
You dear little thing, you've always been rather jealous of my association with Holmes, haven't you?
Not jealous, dear, but I must confess his influence on you wasn't entirely for the good. He had a habit of teasing you out all night.
Well, you should be used to that, dear. After all, it happens often enough in my practice.
True, John, but on those occasions I know where you are and don't worry about you. And again, you copied so many of Mr. Holmes' eccentricities. Keeping your tobacco in a Persian slipper, for instance. And, oh, John, look down. Look, do you see that woman walking across the field towards us?
Yes, well, what's the matter? Do you know her?
I'm not sure, but I think it's Ellen Warburton. I believe she does live somewhere near here.
And who is Ellen Warburton?
An old friend of mine. She's frightfully clever and advanced. She's interested in women's suffrage and all sorts of things.
Oh, sounds dreadful. Imagine giving women the right to vote. Their place is in the home.
It is Ellen. Ellen Warburton. Oh, how are you?
Very nice to see you again.
I'm Mary Watson now. This is my husband.
How do you do, Miss Warburton? How do you?
How do you do? Mary, I'd heard that you'd married. Aren't you a medical detective or something, Mr. Watson?
Not quite, dear.
I hold the degree of Doctor of Medicine from the University of London, madam.
But he's helped the great Sherlock Holmes on many of his cases.
But that's how I've heard of him then. Do you mind if I walk with you a little way?
Of course not, Ellen. Come along.
Do you live near here, Miss Warburton?
About 4 miles away, Doctor, at Chevy Grange. I'm a glorified housekeeper for my uncle, Colonel Warburton.
Oh, dear, that sounds rather dull for you.
As a matter of fact, the state of my uncle's health at the present moment makes it anything but dull for me. That's why I asked if I might walk with you for a way.
Well, what's the matter with him, Ellen?
He's going mad. Before my eyes. And I can do nothing to help him.
Mad? Come now, Miss Warburton, surely you...
Doctor, I'm not an hysterical girl. In fact, I regard myself as something of a scientist. I studied physics for a number of years at Bristol University. And I tell you that my uncle is going insane.
What are the symptoms?
Most of the time, he's perfectly normal. But when these attacks are on him, he gets in the most frightful rages and says the strangest things. He's even complained of hearing a shrill piping whistle that comes out of nowhere. I can't hear it, nor can anyone else. But Uncle gets into the most dreadful state. I wonder, would you have a look at him for me, Dr. Watson?
Well, I don't
Of course, John will do everything he can.
Thank you so much. Then supposing you both come over...
Well, my dear Holmes, at 7 o'clock this evening, we found ourselves approaching Chevy Grange. It was rather a forbidding-looking place, covering a little more than an acre, I should say. As we stood waiting for admittance, I must confess that I was not entirely...
Gloomy-looking place, isn't it, Mary?
It is a little forbidding, John, dear. Oh, dear. What's that?
Sounds like a tom-tom. Someone singing a weird chant. It seems to be coming from the direction of that barn over there.
It doesn't seem quite appropriate, dear, does it? I mean, not in the heart of Buckinghamshire. Why not knock on the door again, John?
Yes, it's all right, I will.
Perhaps they didn't hear us. Oh, they did.
Who is it? Oh, yes.
It's Dr. and Mrs. Watson, my good man.
Acker's the name, sir. Come in, please. The Colonel's expecting you, sir. He's in the study. This way, sir.
By the way, Hacker, as we were waiting outside the front door, we heard a strange chant, and it sounded as if someone was beating a tom-tom.
Oh, that's her. That was Miss Narda. You'll be hearing more of her.
Promising beginning. Let's see what happened next. This very unpleasant fellow Hacker showed us into the study where we met Colonel Warburton. First, it was hard to believe that he was a sick man. He looked well enough, and his conversation was sprightly. Spent most of his army life in Africa as military governor in the Zulu district. And the African spears and other trophies that lined his study walls bore mute evidence to his past life. He encouraged me to tell him some of my own army experiences. Oh, dear, poor fellow. It was really rather sad.
There I was, Colonel Warburton, on the howdah of this wretched elephant. The river was a raging torrent, and I couldn't get the confounded animal to budge. Well, I'm a pretty strong swimmer, you know. Won several cups of swimming, as a matter of fact. Of course, I was a much younger man then.
John, dear.
Yes, ma'am?
You interrupted Colonel Warburton's story,
Oh,
dear.
sorry. I thought this little incident would be interesting.
Do go on, Colonel. Your story was so interesting. You were telling us that you were intercepted by an African drum code message.
Oh, yes. Well, I don't want to sound conceited, but I doubt if there was another Englishman in the world who could have told you what those particular drum beats meant.
Oh, I don't doubt that, Colonel Warburton.
Well, I'd spent a good number of years studying the native customs. I spotted the code right away. It meant that an uprising was planned to start throughout the whole province at noon the next day. Of course, there it is again. The devilish whistle. Can you hear it, Dr. Watson? Mrs. Watson?
I can hear nothing, sir.
Nor can I.
Of course not. No one can hear it but me.
No, Colonel Warburton, don't get so excited,
It's
sir.
black magic, that's what it is.
Oh, really, sir? Black
You
magic.
must realize that the powers of jungle witchcraft are completely unknown in this country, Dr. Watson. But I know of them, and I can think of many people who might wish to employ them against me. Come in. Oh, it's you, Nada.
Great Scott, she's
very beautiful.
Nada, I want you to meet some friends of Ellen's, Dr. and Mrs. Watson.
I am very pleased to meet both of you.
How do you do?
How do you do, Miss Nada?
Nada's father was a Chaga jeweler, one of the greatest Zulu chieftains I ever had the privilege of knowing. He did me the rare honor to swear blood brotherhood. For when the missionary sent Nada to England to complete her education, I insisted that she spend her first few months here under my wing. Listen.
What is it, Colonel?
That whistle again. For heaven's sake, say that you heard it this time. Please say that you did.
I didn't hear a thing, sir.
Well, I did, and I know where that sound came from.
Now, put down that spear at once, will you, Colonel Warburton?
The devils are trying to kill me. I'll kill them first.
No, don't throw it, sir. Don't throw it. Someone's opening the door.
Uncle!
Oh, it's Ellen.
Great Scott. The spear missed her by an inch.
Uncle, what is it?
Whistle. I heard it again, Ellen. And I'm going to find where it came from.
Poor Uncle. Of course, you heard no sound.
Nothing, Ellen.
What can we do to help him, Dr. Watson?
Well, it's hard to say, Miss Warburton. I'm not sure that medical help's what she needs. He seems perfectly sane and lucid except for these strange outbursts.
But we must do something.
I propose to, madam, as soon as I get back to the inn, I think I'll write to my old friend Sherlock Holmes and ask his advice.
I can't feel that the man should be committed to an asylum, and yet obviously when these attacks are on him, he's as mad as a hatter. Well, fascinating problem, and one that calls for speedy action. I think a telegram to my friend Watson might help to clarify some aspects of the case. Yes. Let's see. John H. Watson, Red Lion Inn, Taplow, Bucks. I suggest that you ascertain one
important fact. Does the Warburton household have a dog? Telegraph reply, Holmes. Oh, upon my soul, that's a cryptic answer to my letter.
Yes, dear, it is. I'm afraid Ellen will be disappointed. He's coming over to join us for lunch to see if you have any news.
What on earth can dogs have to do with the case?
I can't possibly... Here's Helen now. Good morning, Ellen.
Hello, Mary. Good morning, Doctor.
Good morning.
I suppose it's too early to have received any reply from Mr. Holmes.
Well, as a matter of fact, I just got this telegram from him. You can read it if you like. I can't see it makes much sense, that's all.
But that's extraordinary. I did have a little dog. He was killed a week ago. But it didn't occur to me to tell you about it yesterday.
Oh, that's amazing. How could Mr. Holmes have known about it?
Yes, very little that Holmes doesn't know, my dear. How was your dog killed, Miss Warburton?
I found him in the grounds with his head smashed in by a stone.
Oh, how dreadful.
Who do you think did it?
It might have been a poacher. And then again, it might have been...
Your uncle?
It's possible. When he's in those rages, I don't think he knows what he's doing.
That's very important. I think I shall go and send Holmes a telegram at once. Don't wait lunch for me.
Why did we have to walk over to the station, dear?
To see if there was an answer at the station telegraph office to the wire that I sent Holmes.
Oh, it's only 4:30, dear. It's hardly possible for him to have answered as quickly as that. In any case, they delivered the telegram to the hotel, you know.
Well, it was a nice walk, my dear. Hello, there's a train in the station now. I wonder where it's from.
Why don't you ask that porter, dear?
It's not a bad idea. Porter, what train is it?
Oh, it's the London train, sir. Right on time. Next stop, ready?
Not many people getting off here, are there? Great Scott! Look who's here.
Oh, dear, it's Mr. Holmes. And he's got a dog on a leash.
Oh, Watson, my dear fellow, how are you? This is Watson. How nice to see you again.
Thank you, Mr.
I'm
Holmes.
delighted you're here, old fellow. We walked to the station to see if you'd answered my telegram. Here you are in person.
It occurred to me that I could be down here at the same time that it would take a telegram to reach you. And I decided that a day or two in the country would make a pleasant change. Apart from the fact that Colonel Warburton's problem interests me enormously.
Why on earth did you bring a dog?
I thought that this was a case in which a dog would be of invaluable assistance.
Oh, be careful, John.
Yes, look out, old chap. I think it would be safer not to pat him. I picked him up on the Mile End Road for a couple of florins, and I fear he's a dog that should have remained in London. A singularly unattractive nature seems to have been entirely ruined by an honest train ride.
Unpleasant brute.
Isn't he?
By the way, Holmes, what do you make of the case from my letters?
Well, I should prefer to reserve my judgment until I've met the Colonel. However, I will vouchsafe one opinion.
Oh, what's that?
To paraphrase a proverb, don't disbelieve all you don't hear.
I can't think why someone doesn't answer. They can't all be out.
Well, while we're waiting, I think I'll tie the dog up to this tree here. I don't want my arrival to cause too much commotion. Quiet! Quiet!
Do you think perhaps we could try the door, John?
Yes, certainly. Good idea. Hello. It's unlocked.
Then let's go in, old fellow. Let's go in.
Colonel Warburton? Colonel Warburton?
Ellen.
What was the name of that butler fella?
Hacker.
Yes, that's it, Hacker. Hacker!
We appear to be in an empty house. The dog! Oh, fool that I am. I shouldn't have left him here. Come on. We're too late.
Oh, the poor dog. He's been killed.
Yes, poor brute. Stabbed to death by one of the Colonel's spears. That proves it, Holmes. The man is mad.
I think not, Watson. I think it proves that Colonel Warburton is a great deal more sane than some of the members of his household.
You'll hear the rest of Dr. Watson's story in just a few seconds. Time for me to remind you that there's one secret every smart woman knows. Simply, good wine makes good food taste better. And by good wine, naturally, I mean Petri wine. Try a Petri wine with your dinner. If you want a wonderful red wine, try Petri California Burgundy. If you want a perfect white wine, try Petri California Sauterne. In fact, try them both. You'll agree, I'm sure, that next to your good cooking, nothing can do more for a meal than a glass of good wine. A glass of Petri wine. And now back to tonight's new Sherlock Holmes adventure, the story of Colonel Warburton's madness.
Holmes, why are we heading for this barn? Seems to me we should be back in the house.
Why, old chap? Found the house empty. Besides, I thought I heard.
What is it?
Listen.
It's the same sound that Mary and I heard yesterday.
Oh, once more, it's coming from the barn. Come on, Watson, but quietly. You can see through this window here.
It's that Zulu girl. Louder. She's beating a drum and chanting.
Who's the man with her?
It's Colonel Warburton. No, it isn't. It's that servant fellow, Hacker. What in thunder is he doing here?
Apparently assisting Miss Nada in some of her African mysticism.
It's black magic they're dabbling with, just as the Colonel said. Let's go in and catch them red-handed.
No. Stay quiet. We'll talk to them soon enough. At the moment, I feel it's much more urgent that we find Colonel Warburton. Come on.
There's the Colonel, pacing up and down in front of the house with Mary and his niece, Miss Warburton. We shouldn't have left the women alone with him, you know. The man's dangerous.
I don't think the women have been in any danger, Watson.
John, dear, where have you been?
Oh, well, Holmes and I decided we'd take a little walk. It proved very interesting. Miss Warburton, this is Mr. Sherlock Holmes.
How do you do, Mr. Holmes? I'm so glad you're here.
How do you do, Miss Warburton?
And this is Colonel Warburton, Mr.
Sherlock Holmes, eh? I suppose you think I killed your wretched dog. Well, I might have done it. When I hear that whistle, something seems to snap in my brain. I might have killed it. Why doesn't your doctor friend certify me as insane? Send me where I belong before I do any worse, damn it?
Poor man. Isn't there anything you can do for him, Mr. Holmes?
I most certainly will try to, Miss Warburton. What no, fellow? I wonder if you'd follow the colonel and give him a sedative. I'm afraid he has quite an ordeal before him.
Of course I will, Holmes.
Miss Warburton, where were you when my dog was killed?
Down in the greenhouse. As soon as I heard the poor animal yelping, I ran up to the house.
I see.
Mr. Holmes, you are going to be able to help the colonel, aren't you?
I'm convinced of it, Mrs. Watson. That is why I brought a dog from London. But now that he's dead, I must obtain another one before I can proceed further with the case. Now, I wonder where on earth I can find a dog.
Look.
Huh?
Down by the gate. There's a little girl walking with the dog.
That's Sarah Entwistle, the daughter of our neighbors.
Sarah, eh? Oh, excuse me, will you just a moment? Sarah! Sarah!
Yes?
Sarah. Sarah, my dear, what a pretty dog you have there. What's his name?
It's a her. Her name's Boojum. What's your name?
Holmes. Sherlock Holmes.
Sherlock? That's a funny name.
Yes, it is, isn't it? Look here, Sarah. Here's a nice, shiny half-crown for you.
Why are you giving me money?
Well, because I love dogs, and I want to borrow, what did you call him?
Boojum.
Boojum, oh, yes. I want to borrow Boojum for half an hour.
Why?
Well, I want to play with her, Sarah.
You can play with her here. She's awfully friendly.
Well, you see, I really want to take her for a nice walk.
Why? She's just had
Now,
one.
look here, Sarah. It's a beautifully shiny half-crown.
Mommy's told me I mustn't take money from strangers.
But I'm not a stranger. I'm a friend of Colonel Warburton.
Having trouble, Mr. Holmes?
Yes, I am, Mrs. Watson. You see, I wanted to give Sarah half a crown for borrowing Boojum for a short while, but she doesn't want to do it.
Sarah, does Boojum like bones?
Oh, yes. Loves them.
We've got a lot of bones up at the house we'd like to give her.
Have they got plenty of meat on them?
Plenty. She can have a wonderful feast, and then we'll bring her back in half an hour.
All right. Go on, Boojum. Now, promise you'll bring her back in half an hour.
We promise. Yes, Sarah. And Sarah, what about the half crown?
Well, I'll take it home and ask Mummy if I may keep it.
Good.
Goodbye.
Goodbye.
And take care of Boojum.
Oh, she's a sweet little girl. Mr. Holmes, you're not going to expose Boojum to any danger, are you?
None, Mrs. Watson. Otherwise, I should live for her. I'm convinced that Boojum will give us the clue to what appears to be Colonel Warburton's madness. Now, let me see. We're all here. Miss Warburton, the Colonel, Miss Nada, Hacker, and the dog Boojum. Yes. Now, ladies and gentlemen, I propose to conduct an experiment. Before I conduct it, I should like to point out the chronology of the events in this case. First, Miss Nada arrived here.
Mr. Holmes, you're not suggesting...
Please let me finish, Miss Nada. First, Miss Nada arrived here. Second, the Colonel first heard the mysterious whistle. Third, your dog was killed, Miss Warburton. Fourth, the whistling set in dead earnest. The Colonel Warburton and Miss Warburton. Doesn't that pattern suggest anything to you?
No, I can't say that it does, Mr. Holmes.
I don't see what you're driving at.
Nor do I, Holmes. We should be more specific.
Very well, then I will. I shall now conduct my experiment. I want you all to watch Colonel Warburton and the dog Boojum. Excuse me while I turn my back. Now.
There it is again. That whistle. The dog heard it, too.
Great Scott, Holmes. What does it mean?
It means that this wooden whistle in my hand is the answer to the mystery. The sound made by this cunningly designed instrument is above the normal range of pitch. You see, the Colonel has hypersensitive ears.
So the dog heard it.
Perhaps I should have said the normal human range of pitch.
Didn't you suppose someone has deliberately been trying to drive the Colonel mad?
Of course, Mary. That's why the dogs were murdered. Whoever it was knew that a dog would give the game away.
It's not hard to guess who that someone is. Nada, this started when you came here. Is this your gratitude for the Colonel's kindness to you? Endangering his sanity with your evil black magic? That is not true.
One moment, please, Miss Warburton. Miss Nada.
Yes, Mr. Holmes.
Dr. Watson and I watched you in the barn some 3/4 of an hour ago with Hacker. Were you engaged in practicing any form of black magic?
No. I was praying to my old gods to save the Colonel's sanity.
What were you doing there, Hacker? Don't tell me you were praying to old gods, too.
Well, I used to be a chapel-going man, sir, but I don't know. No harm in trying something new, I always say.
In any case, why should Miss Nada wish to persecute the Colonel?
It might be for some tribal revenge.
Oh, that's ridiculous, Ellen. Her father and I were sworn blood brothers.
Exactly, sir. No, it should be obvious who had a motive for making the Colonel appear mad. his niece and heiress.
What do you mean?
She had studied physics, you will remember, and so could know about supersonic research. Possibly she was afraid the colonel might leave his estate to Miss Nada, and so wished him to appear insane and thereby invalidate a new will.
What?
In any case, I found this whistle in a drawer in your room, Miss Warburton.
Ellen, how could you?
I did it for your sake, to save you from Nada. She's just an adventuress, only you won't see it.
Colonel Warburton, what action do you wish me to take regarding your niece, Miss Warburton?
My niece? I have no niece, Mr. Holmes. Come, Nada, my dear.
Oh, what an amazing case, Holmes. Mary, wasn't it clever the way Holmes solved it?
It was very interesting, dear. I was quite enthralled.
Oh, now I think I shall return to London and let you two finish your holiday in peace.
Before you do that, Mr. Holmes, there's one thing we should do.
What, Mary?
Boojum. We promised, you know.
Yes, of course. I think the three of us might walk her home. But before we do that, I suggest we rummage through the kitchen.
The kitchen? What on earth for?
Bones, dear.
Exactly. And bones with plenty of meat on them.
Say, Doctor, that was a swell story. And look, you mean there really is a whistle that only dogs can hear?
I thought you'd ask me that question, so I've got one of those whistles to show you. There.
Well, there's nothing unusual about it. Blow it, Doctor.
Well, listen, Mr. Bartell, if I want you to come quickly, I don't just have to whistle. All I have to say is, would anybody like a glass of pet wine? And, hey, presto, there you are.
Well, can you blame me? I know a good wine when I hear it. And Petri wine sure is good wine. It ought to be. The Petri family's been making wine for generations. As you know, ever since they started the Petri business way back in the 1800s, that business has always been family-owned and operated. So just think of all the experience the Petri family's gained. They've been able to hand on down from father to son, all they've ever learned about the art of turning luscious California grapes into fragrant, delicious wine. So whenever you're choosing a wine to serve before dinner, with dinner, or at any time, you can't go wrong with a Petri wine. Because Petri took time to bring you good wine. Tonight's Sherlock Holmes adventure is written by Dennis Green and Anthony Boucher and is based on an incident in the Sir Arthur Conan Doyle story, The Engineer's Thumb. Mr. Rathbone appears through the courtesy of Metro-Goldwyn-Mayer and Mr. Bruce through the courtesy of Universal Pictures, where they are now starring in the Sherlock Holmes series. The Petri Wine Company of San Francisco, California, invites you to tune in again next week, same time, same station.
Oh, the Petri family took the time to bring you such good wine. So when you eat and when you cook, remember Petri wine.
To make good food taste better, remember...
Petri wine.
This is Harry Bartell saying goodnight for the Petri family. Sherlock Holmes comes to you from our Hollywood studios. This is the Mutual Broadcasting System.
All right, folks, now it's time for our highs and lows for this episode. But before we get to that, let me introduce my special guest. It's just two of us tonight, so let's get all cozy. It is my personal friend and physician, Dr. DJ Kristatos. Welcome back to 221B, Dr. Kristatos.
Oh, hey, Jarrod. I didn't see you there. I'm glad you came over. I got some dinner made here. And you know what, Jarrod? What goes really fine with a great dinner?
Probably some drink.
Yeah, exactly. And you know what? What goes fine with a nice dinner is some Pat and Dave's wine. PD wine is nothing finer.
PD wine? Sort of like PD wine.
Yep, PD wine. Nothing finer. You know, it's been brought down from Pat and Dave's parents and then from the parents before their parents. And it's just nothing finer. Let me tell you.
Always trying to sell your wares here. Well, man, I'm glad to have you back. And it's like old times, man. It's like the beginning of the LONGBOX Network. It's like me and you.
Mm-hmm. I'm excited, Jarrod.
I also am excited. I love it. I love it. So let's get into this whole Colonel Warburton's madness.
Yes, that was a crazy one.
Yeah, I mean, we don't really have to follow a heck of a lot of format tonight because it's just me and you.
Okay.
And I know you like that because then you can use every note that you wrote down. So let's talk about it, man. What was the first thing that comes to mind? Was it a high or a low or a what the? Or what's the first thought you have on Colonel Warburton's madness?
I think it was a what the, because this one was very different for what we've listened to before. And I think just the mystery of it all had me kind of guessing it. And I don't know if it was kind of the flashbackiness that they were kind of doing in it that kept throwing me off, but it was a different story. And then I'm like, the ending of it, I'm like, how did he find this thing? Holmes said they didn't ever get to that part of. Holmes just says he found this whistle, right?
Mm-hmm. In her drawer.
In her drawer, but I don't remember them going into her room unless I
over that somewhere. He did that sort of quote unquote off screen.
Okay. I think that's what was confusing me about.
No, you're right. This one has a more confusing structure because it's told very much Watson. It's a lot of Watson in the front half.
And that's I think threw me off too, is this is really a Watson story.
It is. And then like he writes a letter home, so we get kind of like a quick cut to home, so everybody kind of remembers that Basil Rathbone's there. He's like, he reads the letter.
That's what was throwing me off, is the quick cuts.
Yeah.
And how they did it, because they would be like, Watson would be like, and then Holmes would be, and then just kind of finishing off what Watson was saying as he was.
Yeah, as he's reading the letter.
Yeah. And it was just kind of bouncing back and forth. And I think that was throwing me for a little bit. But
okay. Yeah, the format was a little different. I could definitely see that. It may have been better served if it just started with, Holmes and Watson are on vacation again, and then this happened. But, they wanted to bring back Mary, and we like Mary on the show. She's been a pretty fun character.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, she was fun.
She was useful in this one as well, too.
Yeah, she was. She did help Holmes get the dog from the little girl.
Yes.
And of course, I'm, you know what? Good on that little girl, but going, you're a stranger. I don't know if I want to. And he kept going, well, I'm going to give you money.
I'm not really a stranger. I'm a friend of Colonel Warburton. Yeah, he tried to give her money.
She's like, I don't care who you are.
She's like, get away from me, creeper.
So luckily Mary comes along and says, well, we'll give your dog some bones. And as long as there's some meat on those bones. Okay, whatever. Yeah.
Mary has much more people skills.
Yeah. And as we're talking about getting bones for the dog, I thought that was a little disturbing too. With how Holmes brought the dog and then the dog gets
speared, I think,
or something. I'm like, whoa.
I like how they went out of their way. Like they tried to soften that blow by saying like this dog was an a-hole. Like for the moment they were like, your dog is really, mean and aggressive. It's like trying to soften the blow because they knew they were going to kill that dog.
Yeah.
And that was not going to go over well.
I guess, but I was like, wow, yeah. I was like, whoa, this is really, so Holmes just brought this dog for that.
I think Holmes already suspected that there was a dog whistle involved, like there was something, ultrasonic whistle. And that's why he's like, I got to bring this dog. And he picked like the meanest dog in London. He's like, this dog's real pain in the butt, but I'm like, still.
It was hard to, I'm a dog lover. I'm a dog lover.
I know. I didn't like it either. No matter how you painted it, I was like, man, that dog got killed. And then he was like, hey, little girl, can we borrow your dog?
I'm like, no, little girl, don't give it to him. Don't give him your dog.
He's like, I'm running out of dogs here, kid.
Yeah. Luckily, and then we'll go back to Mary helping. I'm like, okay, well, at least Mary's there. And he says to Mary, I'm not going to do that. I'm like, okay, I'm going to trust him now. Because if he pisses off Mary, she's going to tell Watson, you can't play with that Holmes anymore. That guy can't come over here anymore.
Kids can't be friends.
The other characters in it, they were all right. I think the guy going crazy, I could see how he thought he was kind of going crazy, without knowing what was happening. And maybe that's just my own, was I getting duped again? I could have been just not figuring it out from a point to the next point. But I guess I should have figured it out when the guy says, do you hear that whistle? And I'm like,
yeah.
I don't hear anything. This guy's crazy.
Here's the problem, quote unquote, with this episode is, I think you mentioned earlier too, I think you kind of were onto it a little sooner than most. And I think we both were just like, okay, there's dogs, there's a high-pitched whistle. Clearly a dog whistle is involved here, right? Which made me do a little research. I was like, okay, when was the dog whistle invented? According to what I found out, it was 1876. So that's about 20 years before this story takes place. So the dog whistle is still sort of not a lot of people have seen it before. It's new, it's revolutionary. So I could see where in this story it made sense. But then I'm like, they wrote this story in 1945. Did they outsmart themselves with like, oh, the dog whistle was new in 1876, so let's use that as our gimmick? But your average listener is now well aware of dog whistles. So yeah, that was the only thing that kind of brought it down to me. I was like, okay, it's kind of clearly going to be a dog whistle thing. Now, what they did do well, that I think, is set up a nice little menagerie of suspects.
Yes, they did. That was a good setup there.
They had 4, right? They had Colonel Warburton, his niece, the girl from, was it Senegal? Somewhere in Africa. The 2 people helping. And then the housekeeper guy, he was grumpy and crotchety.
Yeah.
And so you had 4, which was good. And they definitely kind of wanted you to lean towards the gal from Africa. I can't remember what country.
Because of the drums and
the drums and the voodoo, and it's all kind of. And it ended up being, and I thought this was pretty progressive for 1945. Like they ended up, the grumpy guy was learning about her religious rituals from Africa.
Sure. Yeah.
And I thought, well, that, it takes place in 1876. That's very open-minded. A lot of people would be afraid of something like that. And then everyone remarks about how beautiful she is, and she's from a completely different culture and all that. And I thought, well, that's pretty cool that it was very, they were very open-minded. And it was
I think you're right on that. This one was a little more open-minded, and even with having Mary in it, and you had the lady who did the stuff, she was also, as you would say, progressive, where, she was studying. She said, well, I studied this and I've done, I guess that should have been the clue too, is like, she's a very smart lady. So
that's true. Holmes did say
now that I catch on that.
Yeah. Holmes was like, and I knew that you knew because I know you've studied these things before.
Yeah. I guess I didn't catch all on that. I think what threw me off is like, oh, we're dealing with a smart girl. Even Watson kind of, putting her down, like, because they say this girl's kind of bucking the system as far as women's rights and giving women right to do some certain things.
Imagine giving the women the right to vote.
Yeah.
That was the not as progressive part.
No, but I think
it was tongue in cheek. Yeah.
But I think that also helped kind of prove how smart this other girl was, because she was pushing that envelope. She was doing the study, and she just wasn't, the world just wasn't giving her opportunity yet. And so,
she did have the biggest motive of everybody. Because I was like, that's kind of my always line of thinking. And I'm looking at these 4 characters. I'm like, okay, I'm like, she probably stands to inherit everything if he dies. So that's big. I'm like, the Africa girl, I don't know. I mean, this colonel was friends with her father, I think. So why would she? She's basically a foreign exchange student, and why? Unless he's doing something nefarious we don't know about, and he seems like a nice guy. She doesn't have a ton of motive. The housekeeper guy just seems like a grumpy dude.
Yeah. He just seemed like a.
And then you got the colonel himself. Is he really going crazy? It's highly unlikely. So in terms of motive and method, I thought this one was a little easy to pick up. But I mean, it's just for an evening of entertainment.
Oh, sure.
Radio entertainment. It doesn't need to be the best. And I guess that's a good question, Pat. Like, were you entertained? Did it hold your interest?
It did hold my interest, in that I was still trying to figure it out all the way through the end. Just like, okay, what happened and why? And then once they did it, I'm like, oh, dog whistle. Okay, now I get it. That's why. It did hold my attention through it. I was entertained. Was I overly entertained? We'll get to the ratings in a little bit, but it did hold my attention. How about you?
Yeah, same. I listened to this one, as I tend to do, twice. I listened to it a few weeks out, and then as we get closer, I listened to it. We are recording on a Wednesday night. I listened to it on Saturday as I drove up to Free Comic Book Day. I said, let me give that another listen, so I'm really refreshed on it, make sure I have all the particulars. And yeah, it was definitely as entertaining as ever to me. I find them all to be very entertaining, and I like listening to them. We've talked about this before. A lot of it has to do with sort of the charm of I want to use nostalgia, but I'm not nostalgic for 1945 because I wasn't alive, but like, you know what I mean? It just feels neat. It's like a time capsule.
Oh, yeah. No, I love listening to these. And, I've actually been going through and listening to other old time radio stuff at night, to go to kind of sleep. I'll put my earbud in and just found a YouTube channel that just does it for like 8 hours of old time radio show. And I put that in, and I've been loving that.
Oh, that's cool.
I've been enjoying listening to that kind of stuff and just having fun with it. One other thing that I did like about this one, it was just fun, the interaction between Watson and Mary, and just how, he's like, I've been working and doing his doctory things again. And, she's been complaining about him working, and that they finally get a chance to be together, and they're going out on their walks or whatever, wherever they're going. And then, he's like, she's like, oh, you've been working so much. You want to come out here? Next thing you know, her friends come like, hey, he'll take care of this for you.
She gave him things to do, didn't she?
she was just complaining about him working so much. And then she's like, well, no, he'll take care of this for you. He'll, go see the guy. And he's like, well, I don't want to go. He's trying to bumble his way out of it.
I love your Watson. He did not want to work with that lady.
He did not at all. But he's, it's Watson. He's a good guy. And this Watson is a little bit different than the Watson I love the Watson from the Holmes series we did earlier on.
1954.
The 1954, the Bachelor Watson.
Yeah, H. Crawford was the best.
I love that Bachelor Watson, because he's all playery, and here you can see Watson.
He acts like he's I don't know, but the ladies all love him.
Yeah, and now you can just see him in his older years or whatever, and just I like that.
Yeah, that is definitely part of the charm. And of course, I can't get enough Petri wine guy.
Petri wine guy. Yeah,
from father to son, You mentioned that you were listening to like a YouTube 8-hour radio channel. I think that's great. I used to fall asleep listening to radio shows, and I should probably start doing that again sometime. I just wanted to drop a couple of recommendations to the audience, and maybe you have some to add as well. So we'll wrap it up with pipes here in just a second. But since we're kind of talking about listening to radio shows, if you're listening to our podcast, we appreciate it. And why not recommend some other stuff to you that, maybe one day we'll get to on the network here. I've dabbled most heavily in the, I think it's a 50s Adventures of Superman radio show. Inner Sanctum. Is a great one. It's like almost like a Twilight Zone.
Yeah. I've been having some of those.
Inner Sanctum's great.
Inner Sanctum, yeah.
Price of Fear is a lot like Inner Sanctum, and that one came out as late as the 80s, as I understand. It's a Vincent Price hosted thing, and it was cool. And I was like, in the 80s? That's I didn't remember that as a kid, but apparently they were still doing some radio shows with Price of Fear.
Okay. I've been also listening to The Shadow.
Oh, yeah.
Those are really good too.
The only problem with that one is it's just like around noon, it just goes away. I do have a handful of Shadow. I found a 4 or 5 CD set at Goodwill.
Really?
Of the Shadow radio shows. So I have that, but I haven't listened to her yet.
Oh, no. Cool.
But I will. I'll get to those one day. So those are some of the shows that we love and recommend. These are just a ton of fun to do. But let's get back to Sherlock Holmes and Colonel Warburton's madness on a scale of 1 to 5 pipes. We're busting out the pipes again, Pat. I know you'd like that. 1 to 5
and you know what, Jarrod? Nothing goes fine with a nice pipe than some P&D wine.
It's a PD wine.
PD wine.
All right, Pat, 1 to 5 pipes. How would you rate this radio show?
I'm going to give this one a 3. I think it's middle of the road. Production was fine. Yeah, of course, the main actors, good. It wasn't a bad story, but it wasn't a really good one either.
I wholeheartedly agree. I give it a 3. I thought it was fine. It held my attention, and I was entertained by it. But, it's our 13th episode of this radio show, and it's not a top tier one for me. I mean, I think on episode 12, I think we did Limping Ghost, which was I think I gave it a 5, you know?
Yeah, it was a whack. Yeah.
It's Holmes and Watson out in the country, and there's a freaking ghost knight involved. You know, that's going to push me over.
That was a good one.
You know, this one was fine, and it was fun, and it at least made me look up the fact that the dog whistle was a relatively new invention at the time, the quote-unquote time that the story took place. So there is that. So we're both at 3s. This was a good one. I mean, I wouldn't skip it by any means. If we give it a 2 or a 1, you might want to skip one, but I don't think it's going to happen. We haven't found one like that yet. Well, it'll be out there. We'll continue listening. We'll find out. And that is it for this episode of LBC Irregulars, a Sherlock Holmes podcast. I want to thank my friend DJ Kristatos for being here. DJ Kristatos, where can they find you on the internet?
Well, Jarrod, I am glad you asked. You can find me on the Twitter at Kristatos01. Where can you be found?
I am at Yard Sale Artist on X, Facebook, and Instagram, as all at Yard Sale Artist. You can check out my artwares at www.theyardsaleartist.com. And remember, if you want to get in on this conversation, we'd love it if you leave us a voicemail with your thoughts at 707-532-5269. That's 707-532-LBOX. Pick up the phone. One shot. Or you can comment on the show at LONGBOX CRUSADE. It's Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, YouTube. It's all at LONGBOX CRUSADE. We're in lots of places. You can send emails to contact@longboxcrusade.com. We will be happy to read your comments on the show. Thanks for joining us. And as a reminder, we couldn't do this show and all the shows on the Longbox Crusade Network without the support of our Crusaders Club members over on Patreon. And if you'd like to join their ranks for as little as $1 a month, just go to www.patreon.com/longboxcrusade. And we'll now thank our Crusaders Club members as we ride off in our handsome cab. I'm your host, Jarrod Alberich, the Yard Sale Artist, and I look forward to joining you on the next episode.
Alan Wright.
And Helica Wolf.
Auburn Elvis.
Bill Beer.
Bill Dunleavy.
Braxton Underwood.
Captain Entropy.
Clark Westfield.
Clinton Robinson.
Dave Collins.
Battle Wagon.
Ezra Gallo.
Gary Viola.
Gene Hendricks.
Gerald Green.
Heinz Cook.
Jason Keene.
Jason Lady.
Jeff Polier.
Jeremy L.
Jim Jarman.
Jim Neal.
Joe Thomas.
John Watson.
Josh Strickland.
Candace Ward.
Captivating Kathy Bright, the MVP.
Mark Ross.
Matt and Lissy Passo.
Maxwell Traver.
Miranda W.
P.D. Devons.
Paul Hicks.
Rick from Jeff and Rick Present.
Rob Morgan.
Samantha Maney.
Sean Urbanski.
Spidey 67.
Spreadsheet.
Steve Cronin.
Tim Price.
Tony Pennington.
And Toronto Cop.